All right, Heather. Actually, no, this one isn't Heather. This is Jastin. All right, Jastin. A through Z.
In.
Oh, I've got something for that. The Netflix series Squid Games, season 2 comes out on December 26th. They announced that today.
Okay.
Cool.
3 years later or something, right?
Yeah. But yeah, that's a thing. So that's cool. In other news, San Diego Comic-Con was recently. During San Diego Comic-Con and around San Diego for this, 14 people were arrested in a human trafficking sex sting.
Oh boy.
10
What?
victims were
Know that.
10 victims were rescued. The youngest of which was 16. So, kudos to San Diego Police Department.
Wow.
Anytime you have any sort of big convention or anything like that, sex stings tend to be something else happening in that area. Super Bowl is actually rife with just sex stings. And it's just because, it attracts a lot of rich people. So, the despicable people go to, try to take advantage of it. Also, I don't know. This is like one of those little things that kind of went under the radar at San Diego Comic-Con. But apparently, Robert Downey Jr. is going to be Dr. Doom.
You don't say.
Nobody knew about that.
I did just, it was just like a little blip. I mean, I guess I should say, let's wait and see. But, every instinct in me is just saying, fuck, that's dumb. They just done lost the plot, man. They lost it. They're going, man, people are really hating our movies. Let's bring back RDJ. Okay. I guess. Whatevs. I just don't see a scenario. There's not too many scenarios in there that I like it. Option 1 is that they're just making Dr. Doom a variant of Tony Stark from another universe, which is dumb to me. Because, Doom is a character rich in history and lore and meaning and so many things. And just to go, he's a variant of Tony Stark, just cheapens it to me. The other alternative is it's that, and the Dr. Doom from the main timeline shows up at the end and kills him and goes, no, I'm the real Doom. I mean, I guess that's slightly better, but also, I don't know. Why don't just make that guy Doom? Why do all this bait and switch shit? And the only way I actually see this as slightly viable is if they take RDJ and they just, make up the fuck out of him, and he legitimately plays a different character. It's just him under the burnification makeup that is typically used to portray Doom and a metal mask. You know what I mean? Like he's just acting chops his way of it's technically him, but you don't even know it's him type of thing. Like that's the most okay to me in my head. Just when I think about how they can make this a thing, that's the one that seems the least offensive to the character of Dr. Doom. So that's why I do kind of have the idea of like, oh, I guess let's wait and see. But also just fuck, it sounds dumb. Just when I talk about it though, when I think in my head, Robert Downey Jr. is coming back to the MCU. Oh, okay. As Dr. Doom. Fuck. Like that's just always the thought process I have. And I don't know how to feel about that. How do you feel, Jastin? Because I know you like some good Victor Von Doom, and you like some Doom here and there.
I mean, it's interesting because now for me, the questions that it raised really is, okay, so are we done so basically we're nixing Kang. And if so, how are we doing that?
I think there's an easy way to do it. You take the end of Ant-Man Quantumanium when you have the Olympic Stadium of Kangs and they just like explode. And Doom is just like stands there and walks through the ashes. Because you don't even have to film anything new. You just have to have all those CGI Kangs, then just burst them into flames.
Yeah.
And then Doom's there.
You could do it that way where he just kills them all.
Yeah.
And he's like, yep, I'm the big bad now. But either way, however they decide to do it, it's just going to be interesting to see how that plays out because you haven't really established him in the MCU at all. So you would have to do that. They announced the Avengers Doomsday, right? That's the name of the movie. And then there's going to be an Avengers Secret Wars. So Dr. Doom was all over that Secret Wars shit. So that makes sense for that to be.
And Secret Wars isn't new.
That makes sense for that to be the follow-up once he's introduced. But I mean, are you just going to do this in one Avengers movie? Is Dr. Doom going to have his own movie? I just wonder how they're going to do that.
I'm assuming he's at least for right now, contractually, I think they only have him for 2 movies and maybe a couple of cameos. And the reason why I say that is the one condition he had to come back was the Russo brothers had to come back too.
Okay.
And they are coming back also for Doomsday and Secret Wars. So.
Okay.
That's why I'm saying we at least are probably 2 with some cameos minimum. Because they're going to have him in an end credit or something. Like he's got to be in at least one end credit between now and Doomsday.
Yeah. And like you said, I wonder how they're going to do it too. Because is it going to be, like you said, is it a Tony Stark variant or is this going to be a completely different person, like you said, that Robert Downey Jr. is playing? So, I mean, it's kind of interesting how they tackle that. From what I understand, there is a comic book story where Iron Man is Dr. Doom. So, I mean, I guess the easiest thing to do might be to pull from that. But I kind of hope that it's the other thing you said. I hope that this is a completely different person that he's playing. And, and we basically tell the Dr. Doom story and he just plays Dr. Doom. But like you said, you use CGI, you use different techniques, and maybe he looks different. Maybe it's not, he doesn't look like Robert Downey Jr., but we know it's him, but he's playing a completely different person, and I wonder, but even still, like, Another thing I think about though is that anytime really any actor plays a different character, even if he is playing a different character, Robert Downey Jr. just has a certain way of acting. There are just certain things that he does. There's a certain cadence to how he speaks. There's certain mannerisms that he does. And like he brought a lot of that stuff to the Iron Man character. And all of that really worked for like the Iron Man character, just like those little nuanced things that he sort of brought to the Iron Man character. But, you know, Robert Downey Jr. has a certain way that he acts. And when I think of Dr. Doom, I don't feel like he could just act the same way.
I slightly disagree with you, Jastin, just because in a weird way, Robert Downey Jr., Tony Stark, and Doom are egomaniacs to just an absurd degree. So you tap into that. You know, you tap into, he calls everything Doom. You know, you tap into him just going, Doom doesn't like that. Or, you know, you tap into that type of shit as an I'm the savior and my way is the only way. You just tap into that, but you change his voice because, you know, him being in the mask and all this other stuff, it's always like portrayed that Doom sounds like, you know, different because of the mask and all this, you know, in technology and shit like that. So you just make his voice deeper and more gravelly. And I think some of that would work. Just him being like that egotistical maniac. You know?
But I feel like the way Robert Downey Jr. plays that person, and the fact that we've already seen him play Tony Stark for so many years, is it gonna seem different enough? Is it gonna be, you know, if it's his same voice and it's him talking, are you gonna be watching it going, yes, he is playing a completely different person? Or is he gonna bring some of those Robert Downey nuances that he always does in every actor performance he does? And if he does that, will it be too similar to what he did with Tony Stark? That's my worry, is how different is he going to be able to portray this? Is it going to seem like a completely different person, or is it just going to seem like Robert Downey Jr., but now he's got a mask on and a green suit on instead of a golden red Iron Man suit? You know, I wonder how different is he going to make this performance? Can it be completely different from his Tony Stark thing?
I don't disagree with that being a worry. You know, like that's.
And I don't know. I mean, I don't know, but that's why I hope that, like, if it's the one thing you said where it's a completely different person, if it's a variant of Tony Stark, well, then you know what you're getting. He's just going to be Tony Stark, but you know, but they'll add some villainy to it and add some stuff to it, but he's basically just going to be playing the character he plays, and that'll be weird. You know what I'm saying? That'll be weird. But I think if he goes the other route and tries to play a completely different person, they make him look different and stuff like that, I'd be down for that. And I think that'd be a real challenge for him to play this character completely different from how he plays other characters. And can he do it without doing some of his typical RDJ things? You know what I mean? Because I don't think he can play it that way and it'll come off different enough. I think he has to ditch some of that. But can he?
But
I mean,
apparently doing Oppenheimer reinvigorated his want to act and do things. And he did that TV show. It's on Apple or Netflix or Amazon or I don't know, one of those fucking streaming platforms, where he plays like 8 different people, like the sympathizer or something. So
is he good in that? Have you seen it?
Jastin, I don't even know what the fuck it's on. It's safe to assume I didn't watch it.
But he plays 8 different people.
He plays a bunch of characters.
Man, I may have to check that out and see if any of them
aren't
if
him.
they're like all hella different. Then I'll be like, okay, maybe he can do this. You know, that might give me some more confidence in it. But I'm thinking about every Robert Downey Jr. performance I've seen, and there's always a little ounce of his tendencies in there. You know what I mean? There's just...
What about him in Gothica?
Have I seen that?
With Halle Berry? Yeah, I know you've seen it. Where she's like
Wasn't
possessed.
that bad?
Yeah, it was terrible.
I think I did see it. I can't remember how he acted in that. All I remember is Halle Berry and bad.
Yeah, because he's only in it for a little bit because he's like her doctor partner. Not her husband. That's the other guy. But he's like the doctor partner. And at one point, he's got to sedate her. And while they were filming that scene where he's got to like pin her down and sedate her, he accidentally actually broke her wrist. Acting. Just saying, if you have the type of villainy that can break Halle Berry's wrist, maybe you can be a villain in Doctor Doom. I mainly just wanted to bring up Gothica. That's it. I want to just,
Yes, because you are you, and you just have to be an ass who brings that up. But I hope that what I'm saying is making sense to people. Like, everybody has those tendencies. Like Tom Cruise, he has a thing where he does, with his hands, and he has a certain way of talking in every role that he plays, even
Ryan
when he
Reynolds.
plays different. Yep, Ryan Reynolds has a certain way, a certain cadence. Like if they were like, Ryan Reynolds is going to play the Joker or something, you would know. Could he do a good job playing the Joker? Maybe. I don't want to say he can't play the Joker, but the first thing I would think is the way the way Ryan Reynolds is, the way he is in every movie ever, I would just know that he's going to talk a certain way. I would just know that he would have a certain way of speaking. There would be certain mannerisms, and I'd be like, is that really going to fit the Joker? You know what I'm saying? It's just a similar concern I have with this, But even still, maybe I'm complaining about nothing because it's not like we've seen a great Doctor Doom to compare this to. It's not like I can sit here and go, oh man, well, I hope he plays it as well as Jargon Jabberish, or who played Doctor Doom before?
What is it, like Julian McMurphy? Oh, well, I don't remember his last name.
Okay, so I was close. Jargon Jabberish.
He played Cole / Balthazar in Charmed.
Julian McMahon.
See, I was close.
McMahon. Julian McMahon. I had a J at least.
I at least had Julian McSomething. Damn it.
Yeah. Then can it be better than Mr. McMahon? Of course it can, because Robert Downey is a better actor. So we'll probably at least get better than that. But that's a very low bar. So I don't know, man. I'm a bit concerned. A bit.
Yeah. In some slightly... Actually, before I change the subject, real quick, Heather, what are your thoughts? As somebody that is not steeped in the lore of the character of Doctor Doom, what are just your first thoughts upon hearing this?
I mean, initially I was kind of like, oh, that's cool, because Robert Downey Jr., like, I also have learned a lot about how much he kind of credits Marvel to his acting career and kind of getting him on the straight and narrow and all of that. And it feels like it felt like a moment where he was like, I'm just excited to be back in the Marvel family because of everything that they mean to me. That's the first vibe that it gave me. So I was excited for that reason. I was like, oh, that's really cool. I'm glad that, and people loved him as Iron Man. I thought he was a great Iron Man. So my first thought was like, oh, that's cool. But kind of hearing more about the potential, what that could mean or how they're going to do it and not really knowing, I do get the concern for it. And I mean, it's not like there aren't plenty of talented actors that they could have used for the role. But again, I'm limited on my knowledge of who Dr. Doom even is, to be fair. But I just feel like if we're looking for a really solid villain, there's options. So I think it'll be interesting to see how he does it. And I do think, though, that he has, or they've kind of set it up for a very like bad expectation either way, because it's like you're automatically going to go into that like wanting to know how he does. So it's almost like you're going in there with the mindset of, all right, I'm going to compare it to Iron Man. I'm going to compare it to how he was as Iron Man. It's almost like automatically assume that that's what's going to happen, which kind of sucks. But I mean, that's kind of the tone that they've set. That's kind of, I think they had to expect that would happen. So I guess I hope he's just kind of up for that extra challenge that will be in there for that. But I don't hate the idea of it because I do like Robert Downey Jr., but I also don't know what it means for the role specifically. But I mean, I was going to ask you guys, like, if you were doing like fan casting or whatever, like, who would you pick as Dr. Doom?
That's easy. The only problem is to me, he's actually already been in the MCU. But it's Mads Mikkelsen.
Okay.
Easy. Nothing, no one can do a sneering, fucking pompous, just arrogant fucking villain like that man.
Who was he in the MCU?
He played like Calabasas or whoever, the villain in the first Doctor Strange movie.
Oh, right. Okay.
I mean, you look at that guy playing Hannibal Lecter. He was that one guy in the fucking Casino Royale. I mean, that guy can fucking do it, dude. And you know, he can do that just vague European as fuck accent. Like he can just do, like, he can be Doom. You know, and they already wasted him. But like, if you're already going, hey, but we could bring somebody back, bring back the guy that was just born to play fucking villains. I mean, that's just how I feel with it.
Man, that's nothing I've really thought about. I mean, there are so many people that I think could potentially do it. Man, but just off the top of my dome.
That's fair if you don't know. I don't have an answer because I don't know who that is. I could just say somebody that could play a good villain, but yeah.
Let me think about it. Maybe by the end of the episode, I'll have an answer. Let me ponder it.
If he wasn't already kind of up there in age, I would also say Charles Dance.
Who is that?
Papa Lannister from Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
He's such an asshole.
Along those lines, what about Sean Bean? I think he could do a good villain.
Yeah. I don't know. He doesn't scream Doom to me. Doom's kind of got to have a little bit more arrogance to him than that.
Okay.
And I just don't get that from Sean Bean.
Man, I'm trying to think who else could play that.
Yeah, it is a little tough. I mean, because Doom is such an iconic and important character that, you know, he's not limited to one thing. You know, a lot of villains are limited to like fighting one character or fighting this or that, or it has to be this type of thing. I mean, Doctor Doom can fight fucking Spider-Man. Doctor Doom can take on the entire MCU. He's not limited to that. You can write a story that can fit anything with that man. He could just be mad at Spider-Man for just like saying a news clip on something like, you know, some like news bite comes out where Spider-Man told the villain he looks like, you know, Spirit Halloween Doctor Doom. That pissed that man off enough to fucking go and attack Spider-Man. But then also he could be like, oh, let me use this spell to rewrite history and take over the universe. The entire universe. Because he's done that too. I mean, not like wrote a spell, but I'm like, he has taken over the universe. He was God Emperor Doom for a while. So, you know, that's a thing. So you just got to find somebody that can do both, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to think on it and then maybe report back because, yeah, I just feel like there's a lot of people who play great villains, but also, you know, there's been a lot of those people who are in Marvel movies already. So,
yeah, and that's the problem. Like somebody like Fassbender, I like him. I think he'd be cool for it, but he's been Magneto so long. I just wonder if you look at him and...
But at least that is Fox.
Yeah, but it's Fox. But, you know, somebody like that, I like him for Doom.
I hate it.
But somebody to me to level like that.
Because I was going to say, I mean, I don't know what the age like range is, but I mean, what about, what's his name? Christoph Waltz. He's just great all the time. So I could see that. But I don't know, like, if he's maybe too old for that kind of role.
He's not too old per se.
Yeah, I don't think so. And they could always young him up. You know, you can always.
My only thing
you don't
with
want to do
Christoph
too
Waltz,
much of that, but you know, you can.
Christoph Waltz, even as a villain, because even in Inglourious Bastards, has a slight whimsy to him that I don't know if that adds to Doom. Now, don't get me wrong. There are times there is some whimsy to Doom. Because Doom is the godfather of Valerie Richards, Sue and Reed's daughter. He is the goddaughter. He named her because of shit he did is actually why she was even born. You know, like there was some shit that was happening. She exists because of him. And so he's got this weird soft spot for her. So yeah, there is some silly whimsical stuff with that. Because there's like this one comic where she's just visiting him. He hates her entire family. But she's just, you know, oh, I'm going to go visit Uncle Doom. And she's hanging out with him and he's doing stuff. And he's like, no, Doom doesn't do that and all this other stuff. And she's like, but come on. And he's like, fine. Doom will get you some ice cream. Like, you know, so there is some whimsy to him, but it has to have that weird malevolence to it also. And it's not like when he's telling a little girl, oh, okay, I'll get you ice cream, that's malevolent. But it is just for the sheer fact that he says, Doom will get you ice cream. Like there's some just inherent malevolence in just going, Doom will get you ice cream. You know? But, you know, Like to me, Christoph Waltz would be an amazing Mephisto. Like, that's who I would have him be. I don't know. I mean, it does get tough. Like I said, when it comes to somebody like Doom, because there is just so much to him. He's been around for so long. He's just, like I said, there's an issue. Moon Knight goes to fist fight him one time because he's like, man, I'm tired of this Doom guy getting away with war crimes. So Moon Knight says, fuck this, and goes to Latveria to fight Doom. He does like beat up a Doom bot, but then gets his ass utterly handed to him. And then when he comes back to America, the Avengers are like, bro, you've got to stand trial for breaking our bylaws because we told you not to go fight him. And then that's when Moon Knight goes, fuck this, and bounces. He quits the Avengers because they're just not doing enough. He's a G. I love that man. But that's what I'm saying. He's gone to fist fight Doom. You know what I mean? Like, it's just insane what you can write as a Doom book or a Doom story with everything.
Just let one of the Skarsgårds do it. They could probably do a good job. Any of them, basically.
That's not bad. I mean, because you want somebody who can act and portray all the emotions. And man, his origin story is so crazy. Like, you feel like you would need somebody that really could do that well, you know? Like,
and how much of that are they going to bring to it? Is he just going to be the jaded old roommate of Reed Richards? Or is that also going to be after his mom's soul was taken to hell by Mephisto and he goes on a fucking one-man war against the devil?
Yeah, like, true. Which one are we going to get? That's true.
Like, and that's what I love about Doom is like, there's so many things like Morgana Le Fay, you know, famously King Arthur's sister, the evil witch, and all this other stuff. The antithesis of Merlin is the one that taught him magic. There was this fucking villain called the Master who was like this realm shattering villain, could do anything, all this other stuff. Fantastic Four couldn't do shit to him. Fantastic Four couldn't even beat up this character named the Apprentice that was just with the Master. Like, he's just deboing everybody. And he was one of Doom's mentors for a little while. And Doom fucking, like, the Master takes Doom all the way to the beginning of Earth, when it's still like Pangea and shit, and drops Doom in the ocean to be eaten by prehistoric sharks. That's what this man does to Doom. And then a couple of issues later, when the Fantastic Four are like, oh, fuck, you just destroyed Doom and you didn't even think about it. And they can't beat him and they can't beat him. And they're just like at their wits' end. They're just about to be murdered by the Master. And all of a sudden the Apprentice just kills the Master. Just with like a thought, just snaps and kills the Master. And they're like, wait, who the fuck are you? How did you just kill the Master that was about to kill it? Like, you didn't even try and you killed this man. And the Apprentice takes off his hood and it's Doom. So what happened was when Doom was taken back to the beginning of Earth, he killed prehistoric sharks, used magic to stay alive, and trained his magic and everything for the entirety of the existence of Earth, so that he was so powerful that he could trick the Master into not even realizing that he was Doom, just so he could double cross him in that moment. I love this man.
Wow. That's like the long game right there.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the type of shit that Dr. Doom does. Like, I don't know. That's why I cannot stand the idea that he's just an evil Tony Stark variant. There's just so much. Even if they give him all the history, quote unquote, of Doom, but he's still just that variant, that still just upset me. Because Doom deserves to be his own character. Because that's what he is.
Yeah.
I mean, I know everybody loves Thanos and everybody loves Magneto and everybody nobody loves Red Skull, but as a villain, he's a good villain. There is not a single more iconic villain in the Marvel universe than Doom.
That is true. That is true.
So, anyway, you guys ready to move on to this other movie that's also in the MCU?
Yeah.
Somebody will listen to me.
Nobody knows anything but you.
All right. Are you ready?
Yep.
Come on.
Cinema Slayers.
Hey, Cinefans, and welcome back to another episode of the Cinema Slayers podcast. I'm Sterling, and as always, I'm joined by Heather and Jastin. And tonight, we're going to talk about what we liked, didn't like, and everything in between with the newest and only MCU movie released in the year of our Lord 2024, Deadpool and Wolverine. We will go spoiler-free recommendations and scores and then into a more spoiler-centric section with time codes in the description to allow you to jump around if you so require. And with all that, our resident Deadpool expert, Heather, what are your thoughts about this movie?
Yes, of course. That's what everybody knows me by.
I mean, I know you, like when I met you all those years ago at work, you introduced yourself as Heather, the Deadpool girl gear. So.
That's right. Makes sense. So I would say that of the 3 Deadpool movies, I think this is probably my favorite one. I think it's really well balanced with the funny and the serious moments, the way that you expect it will be with it being about Deadpool and Wolverine. I think that their chemistry and their dynamic, Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds, was fantastic. I really loved their moments together, their scenes that they had. Yeah, I do think that they balance each other out because too much of one might have made this movie not work as well as it did, in my opinion. But yeah, I think it was great. I think the action was really great. I think honestly, I mean, everybody's kind of talking about this. The cameos were fantastic. I loved the cameos that they did. I think that the story, you do feel like there are stakes there, and you feel the story moves in a pretty good pace, I would say. Yeah, it's fun. It's a lot of fun. I had a good time with it. I had a lot of laughs with it, and just, yeah, it was great. Honestly, the action sequences were just really good. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I kind of expected that it was going to be this. Like, this is one of those movies where I expected I was going to enjoy it, and I did, so I feel like that hasn't happened lately with a lot of the movies we've seen. But with this one, yeah, I think it lived up to, I think, the hype of it all. And I think the reason that I liked this one the most, it is because I do like the character of Wolverine, and I do like what they do with him in this movie. They each kind of have their own story and their own thing going on, their own sort of mission, but they're working together, also for this bigger mission. So I don't know. I feel like they just really were a well-balanced team, and I don't know, Hugh Jackman as Wolverine is just so great. And I love his sincere moments in this movie. I think they're so good. And yeah, it's kind of everything I wanted this movie to be. Yeah, it's hard to really talk about so much of the hype and excitement I had without getting into spoilers. But yeah, it's a fun time for sure. Yeah.
I want to go next. But I want to start mine with the question. Jastin, if you just had to assume, based on what you know of me and my life, and I mean, what we've known each other for what, 22 years now?
Yep.
So for, knowing what you know of me for 22 years, what would you do? What is your just in general guess of, did I like this movie or not?
Well, I know that you're not really a fan of Deadpool. It is more of a Deadpool movie than it is a Wolverine movie. You didn't like Logan either. So
I was about to remind you of that.
You didn't like, yeah. So, I mean, I'm leaning towards you didn't like this.
Okay.
I mean, or maybe at the very least, I don't think you hated it, but I would lean towards you just thought it was okay, nothing to scream about. I would say that's probably the maximum for you. And then at the lowest, maybe you hated it because you don't like either of these stories with these characters up to this point. So would this have been good enough to change your mind? I don't know. It's Deadpool comedy stuff. So if you didn't like it in the first two movies, I don't think you liked it here either. So yeah, I'm going mid to you hated it.
All right, Heather, what about you? What do you think? You've known me for a few years. What do you think about me? You've known me just a little longer than Deadpool has been a movie character. So
yeah. I mean, I would probably agree with Jastin, especially because I did actually forget for a second how much you hated Logan. But now that I'm reminded, it kind of confirms that I'm like, he probably did not like this movie all that much, because I do know how much you're not a fan of Deadpool. So yeah, I mean, I would lean towards you were, I don't know, I almost want to say indifferent towards it, but I would probably lean more towards, no, you didn't like it because you don't care about these characters.
Okay. So I'm actually kind of in the middle of your scale, Jastin. Like, you were kind of right. That was the high end and the low end, and I'm kind of in the middle of that. I did not like this movie. I don't hate it, but I did not like it. And that's because mainly it is just the definition of the phrase, more of the same. It's Deadpool doing more dumb fucking Deadpool humor. Like, it's the exact same. If you told me they just recycled all of the lines from the first movie and just had him saying the same shit again in this, I would believe you, because it's just a bunch of nonsense that does not stop. And to make it worse, and this is a slight spoiler, I don't care. Wolverine's story in this movie is essentially his story from fucking Logan. A movie I did not like. So you give me more of the same fucking Wolverine that I did not like in the last one. You literally give me the same Wolverine I did not already like. And then went, hey, we're going to combine that with the Deadpool you also don't like. And we're not going to give you the two things you liked about the last Deadpool movie, which was Josh Brolin and Zazie Beetz. You took her away from me? My absolute favorite thing about Deadpool 2, and you take her away from me. She's easily going to be my second or third ex-wife. And you took her away from me for this, to give me a character with the exact same story and plot from his last movie? Fuck you, movie. Fuck you. I disagree with Heather. I don't like the cameos. Most of them were pointless. I liked one of them. Maybe I'm not in the middle, Jastin. Maybe I do just fucking hate this movie.
I was about to say, this doesn't sound very mid to me.
The reason why I guess I'll give it a mid is there was like 2 jokes I laughed at. So I guess that I laughed twice in this fucking movie. Okay. And there's a new Stray Kids song in it. So that's cool too. But you know, outside of this, I'm like, to me, I feel like if you're a Deadpool fan, you should be disappointed. Because it's just more of the same. You get nothing new in this. There's even less of everything. Especially from the character of Deadpool. There's less. He's weirdly enough got less heart in this than he had in Deadpool 2. Logan's got the same heart he had in Logan. Because his story is the exact same. Right down to him like changing his mind because of a speech a character says to him. And it's the same character. It's the same fucking character.
And see, I guess maybe that is also like, I did not actually see Logan, but so maybe that's why I don't know how I would feel about that movie either way. But yeah, I didn't see Logan. So maybe that also informs why I liked Wolverine more than you in this.
I mean, if you liked him in this, you'll probably like Logan. Because it's the same fucking movie. I don't know. I came out of that movie going, I guess this is what all the hype was for. I guess this was the culmination of the Fox cinematic Marvel universe. I guess this is worth being the movie to quote unquote save the MCU. I guess this movie deserves to be the only MCU release for the entire calendar year of 2024. And then I wonder what they could have been possibly thinking recasting Robert Downey Jr. as Doom. It's par for the course. Because it's more of the same. Jastin, what about you?
Interesting. I thought, shoot, I liked the movie. I'm in Heather's camp. I liked it. I think it's good. I don't know if I would say it's great. I don't know if I can say it's one of my favorite MCU movies. You know, it sort of has, in a way, like it has a Spider-Man No Way Home in-game-ish sort of feel to it because of kind of what we're doing with the time traveling, and we're on a time traveling mission, and you've got cameos and you've got groups of characters that come back and help at the end and different things like that. So it's got a similar vibe to those movies. I'm not saying it's the same as those, but it's got a similar vibe to those. You know, that's what this felt like to me. And it's supposed to be kind of a big turning point for some things. So it had that sort of vibe to it to me. And I don't think it's of the quality of like a Spider-Man No Way Home or of an Endgame or anything like that. I can't say that it is of the quality of those. I do think it's a little, I feel like it's a little weaker in the story department and the villain department in order to match up quality-wise to those. But where it makes up, where it lacks maybe in the quality of the story and maybe the I don't know if what the word is, the seriousness, or like the maybe that's not the word, but where it lacks in the quality of, I'm just going to say use quality, where it lacks in the quality of the story and the villain. I think that Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman's chemistry make up for it. They're just they were just so much fun in this. They're good friends in real life, and there's just a real palpable chemistry between them that just works. I mean, I think that that's really the heart and soul of this movie is them. And ultimately, that is what carries this movie to the end. That's what makes it so enjoyable. It felt like they were having a good time. So I was having a good time too, because I felt like that energy, that vibe between them was palpable. And that's really where the fun of this movie comes from. I feel like in comic books, it was always fun when you would get these team up comics where they take two characters and they go, what if, Captain America and Spider-Man are going to be teaming up in this comic? And it's just a one shot. A lot of times it was just a one shot sort of thing. It was just one, or it might be one or two books, one or two stories. And it's just these two characters that you like and they team up, or they do an odd couple thing. What if the Punisher and Spider-Man have to do something together? What would that be like? They do these things, they would do these fun little team ups every now and then where you get these two characters that you don't often see get to work together, and they get to work together. And I feel like this is like we finally got a movie version of a Marvel team up. That's what this kind of felt like. And Deadpool and Wolverine are definitely an odd couple. Wolverine is so like visceral and serious and especially coming off that last Logan movie was so tragic, and it was very emotional, and just, was like an excellent, like emotional movie. And Deadpool is the complete opposite. When you look at him, everything is very, very comedic. He breaks the fourth wall. He's so zany and out there with the comedy and everything like that. And it's really just this very unique comedic brand of character that Marvel has created. And so when you think about Wolverine and Deadpool together, you just wonder, and I mean, I'm sure they've done that in comic books a few times here and there. Unfortunately, I never read any of the Deadpool Wolverine comics or team ups or anything like that. But when you just think about them as cinematic characters, that feels like a very odd couple. How are you going to balance that? How are you going to, is that combo going to work? And to the movie's credit, I think it does work. I think it works most of the time in this. I think it honestly, dare I say, it works all the time with them. Whenever the both of them are on screen doing something, I felt like it worked. Whether we were trying to be funny, or whether we were trying to do something emotional, or whether they were having a meaningful conversation, I just felt like those two guys nailed it. I just think that they really just nail it. And like I said, they just had a palpable chemistry that I think just couldn't be denied. It didn't really matter what mistakes this movie made. That combo, that chemistry just shined through. You know what I mean? And so that's why, that is the main reason why I really enjoyed the movie. But overall, I think this was also a good change of tone for Marvel, because the past movies that we have gotten, and we haven't gotten one in a while, but trying to think about the previous tones that we've gotten in these movies, it's been a lot more serious, and there were timelines. And what were you saying, Sterling?
What was the last Marvel movie?
It wasn't Guardians 3, was it?
Yes.
Maybe it was.
No.
Was it?
No.
That wasn't it.
It was Marvel's, right?
I think you're right.
Yes. Yes. It was the Marvels. It was the Marvels, which we liked. You know what I mean?
You brought up we haven't seen one in a while, and I just couldn't remember it. Then if I didn't ask that, then I was just going to be thinking the entire rest of the episode, what the fuck was it? So I just, yeah.
Okay. Which we all liked. And I think one of the reasons why we liked it was because at that time we said it was a change of tone. They went back to just having some fun, and it wasn't so serious with the timelines and the confusion of traveling and this, that, and the other. And I think what we dug about that movie was that it felt like we had gone back for a second and just had some fun with some different characters. So here we did, I think, a similar thing. That's what this movie primarily was. It was just really just taking two characters that people love and just putting them together, and let's just have some fun. It doesn't have to be a connector to the MCU storylines. It's not some big pivotal journey that's going to push everything forward. We're just going to have some fun with these characters. And ultimately, it was a goodbye to the Fox Marvel stuff that we've gotten kind of a swan song for that stuff. And that's ultimately what this movie wound up doing. And I think because of that, because it was more fun, because it leaned more into the fun and just having these two characters that we really like together, I think that's ultimately why the movie wins, is because it just leans into that and not trying to be too serious and trying to answer all these questions or raise all these other questions or anything like that. I think the movie just was mainly in the business of fun and entertainment. And ultimately, that's why it wins, because Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman are just fun and entertaining in this. So, yeah, I do have some narrative things that I didn't like about it. I do think I would have preferred, though the villain was very strong power-wise, power set-wise, I do feel like I wanted to know more, see more from the villain, I guess you could say. A lot is told to you and not a lot is shown with that. And you know me, show me, don't tell me. So it has a little bit of that is a problem. I too enjoyed the cameos, though, if this is a goodbye to the Fox stuff, I do kind of wish more of the people that were more impactful in the Fox stuff got to be in this. But, for the cameos that it had, I wasn't mad at them. They do enough without overstaying their welcome. And in some ways, it was sort of a nice kind of goodbye for some of these characters and some of these movies that didn't end so great. You know what I mean? So they kind of did a No Way Home with that, where we brought back some people and we didn't shame them or butcher them in any way. What we did with them ultimately was fine, and I don't think any of that overstayed its welcome, and they just tried to make it funny and didn't make too much of a big deal out of it. So overall, it's fine. They weren't in it long enough to hate them or feel really any bad way about them, in my opinion. They weren't in it long enough, for that to matter. And ultimately, when it ends, it ended fine. It was a fine ending, and I thought that the after credit scene at the end was hilarious too. Yeah, and there's another cameo in this I'm not thinking about, but now that I'm thinking about him, he was pretty damn cool in this too. So, yeah. So, I mean, overall, it's a fun movie. I think for a summer blockbuster, this is kind of what Marvel needed. This is kind of the movie that they needed. They just needed to go back. They needed to have some fun. It's rated R and it earns its R rating. It's full of curse words. It's full of blood and all of that good stuff. And I agree with you, Heather. The fight scenes that we got, whether it's Deadpool and Wolverine fighting each other or we're fighting something else, were very high on entertainment. If it wasn't high on choreography, they made sure they were high on entertainment. So I found all of that entertaining as well. And like I said, it's more of a Deadpool movie than it is a Wolverine movie. But I like the Deadpool movies. I always thought that they were a different tone, a different take than the other Marvel movies that we got. I like that he pushes the envelope a little bit. I like that it feels like he pulls the curtain back. It kind of tells the truth about some things. And Ryan Reynolds, we talk about all of these great, and this is a great time to bring this up. We talk about all of the great actor performances when it comes to portraying characters, like how Tony Stark was just such a brilliant Iron Man, or how why am I forgetting his name? Chris Evans?
Captain America? Yeah.
Yeah, how Chris Evans was just such a great Captain America. And he was. Or like how Chadwick Boseman was just an excellent Black Panther. And all of these are excellent performances. Or hell, I'll even go to some of the villains, how we've had some great Jokers, how like Nicholson was a great mobster Joker, or how Heath Ledger was just a great Joker in The Dark Knight. But when is somebody going to give Ryan Reynolds some flowers for how excellent he plays Deadpool? Deadpool might be Ryan Reynolds and his portrayal of Deadpool. And I get it. He's not as iconic as a Spider-Man or a Batman or something like that. So I think it gets overlooked a little bit. But Ryan Reynolds playing Deadpool might be the best combo of actor to character that I think might be on the screen. And I think it's about time somebody gave him his flowers. But I'm wondering, is Ryan Reynolds playing Deadpool, or is Deadpool playing Ryan Reynolds? That's how just crazy he is with his acting of this character. I can't think of anybody who could play this character as well as him. And I don't think I want to see Deadpool played by anybody as well as him. He loves the character. He understands this character. And I don't think anybody plays a comic book character quite like how he plays Deadpool. And I think it is, for my money, it has to be one of the best actor portrayals as a comic book character there is. Because when I pick up a Deadpool comic and read it, I can't help now but think I hear Ryan Reynolds' voice. I see his mannerisms. I like, now I just picture him as this character. And it's because he has done such an acceptable job bringing this character to life. And I think he deserves some credit for that. I know Deadpool is comedic. He breaks the fourth wall. He's not really like one of those top tier iconic characters in Marvel, although I don't know, maybe now you argue he can be. Maybe he is, but maybe things have changed since these movies. But I had to just finally, before I end, give him some flowers, because he really has played one of the best portrayals of a comic book character that I think exists ever in life. And he may not ever win an award for it. He may not ever be nominated for anything, but I think it deserves to be said just how perfect of a Deadpool that he is. So yeah, overall, enjoyed the film.
Yeah, I mean, and I just want to say, like, I know sort of what we were talking about earlier. Ryan Reynolds is playing Ryan Reynolds all the time. That's just kind of what it is. But the thing is, you love that. Like, I feel like people cast Ryan Reynolds to play Ryan Reynolds. They want that from him. And I think, like, I keep hearing interviews where people talk about, like, if there was any character born to just play a role, it's Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool. So I get what you're saying, and I don't know anything about the like comic book version, but he is a very like hilarious Deadpool. You know what I mean? Like, he does do justice to it from what I can tell. And yeah, so, and that's, I agree, give him his flowers, because it's not like him playing himself is a bad thing all the time, you know? So I don't want that to be kind of miscommunicated, because yeah, like I watch Ryan Reynolds because I know what I'm getting out of his performances. And it's exactly what you want out of somebody like a Deadpool character, with his style of humor and his line delivery. So yeah, I agree with you.
Recommendations and scores?
Yep.
Recommendations and score.
What you got, Jastin?
Yeah, I'll be quick on this part since I took a minute on that other part. Yeah, it's going to be a recommend from me. I mean, is there a more fun, entertaining movie that you can watch right now in the movie theaters? I mean, I don't know. I mean, maybe, but I mean, you'd be hard pressed. I think it's just really a lot of fun. And, you know, a lot of people have already seen it because it's already jumped over $500 million, and which is crazy because it's an R-rated movie. It's already made $500 million. So that's pretty cool. You know, you probably have already seen it by the time you're listening to this, but I mean, I know people seeing it a second and third time just because there's a lot of, it definitely is one of those movies for today's people. It's got the blood and stuff like that R-rated people are liking. It's hella, you know, there's hella cursing and all of that kind of stuff. So it feels like it doesn't have any kind of limiters on it as far as like your PG-13 Marvel movies or your other Marvel movies that aren't as violent. This feels like it doesn't have any of those limiters on it because of the R rating and how gory and bloody it is. And there are so many meme-worthy moments. There's so many meme-worthy lines. People are already making memes out of stuff. This is the it movie that we have in cinema right now. It is just that. You know, it came out, it was highly anticipated more than probably anything else. Though I'm very excited about Alien Romulus, and I hope that's really good. I really hope. I hope Alien, please, God, Alien be good. God, I want that to be good. But anyway.
I'm with you there on that one, Jastin. I'm really looking forward to that one.
The preview, not to just go on a tangent, but the preview of Alien Romulus was fucking amazing, with where it's that part where it's going silent and the alien letters are forming and you're seeing all this craziness happen. I loved that preview. So I really hope that movie's good. But anyway, this was one that was very anticipated. And I think everybody knows what Deadpool is. You know what Wolverine is, and you get plenty of both of them in this. What you were expecting, you get. And I think it fulfills all of those things. And like I said, it very much is the it movie right now. So if you want to be it, if you want to be in the now, if you want to get all the memes you're going to see and countless things you're going to see on TikTok and everything like that, you better get in and watch it so you can be in on it. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, but yeah, that's pretty much it. It's a fun, entertaining movie that, yes, I do recommend. With that being said, we'll go 80. Man, what to even say? 80 tape recordings proving your innocence out of 100.
I've got issues with that scene. We'll get to that. Heather, what about you?
Yeah, I recommend it. I think it's really fun. I agree with your point about, like, right now it's going to be the most fun watch you'll see, most likely. And yeah, again, like, and I'm not going to say, contrary to popular belief, earlier in the episode, I'm not like a huge Deadpool, like, he's fine. I actually had no idea who it was before these movies came out. So, but I liked it. I liked all the movies and everything. And yeah, I like this one because I do like the whole, I've always been a fan in these Marvel movies or their superhero movies where there's team ups, like that's why for me, the original Avengers was when I first like really got into like the Marvel universe and things like that, because it's like that whole team up of people working together, all these things. And it was super fun. And that's the thing that I love most in superhero movies. And it's why I like Endgame so much. It's why I like Infinity War so much, because you get these team ups and, Sterling. But and it's kind of, I mean, No Way Home, obviously, like that, like that team up is ultimate. It's great. So yeah, I liked the team up of Deadpool and Wolverine because they are complete opposite people in every regard, but somehow their dynamic works. And you're right. I think it has to do with the fact that their friendship in real life is so, like, I don't know, it's just so there. It's so real and it's so in your face because they love each other and they talk about it all the time. And that does really show through in the performances. And yeah, I don't know. So I just really, I think it's worth a watch. I mean, is it something where you have to see the other two? I guess you kind of need to know what's going on in the other two to get this one, but it's just a fun, just really good, like, action film. So yeah, I do recommend it. I think you'll have a good time with it. Unless you do just hate Deadpool and Wolverine. Then you will not like this movie in any regard. But if you like either of those characters,
probably the most accurate thing that's been said on this episode yet.
Yeah. So if you don't like either of those characters, you're probably going to have a hard time enjoying this movie. If you like either of them, you'll probably in some way like this movie. Yeah. So I'll recommend it for people who like either of these characters. But I'm going to give it, surprisingly, because I had thought about the score like for a little bit today before we recorded, I'm higher than Jastin on this one, which is weird. Like, I was just going to go with, I was going to say 83. And it's not even like it's that much higher, but I'm going to go 83 choreographed dance slaughters out of 100.
Oh, okay.
I surprised myself there. I honestly thought Jastin was going to be higher.
Did I accidentally watch a different movie than you two? The fuck are these scores? You might as well give it a 250. Jeez.
But I kind of, before you go, I feel like it's similar to the whole Inside Out 2 thing, right? Where you don't relate to anxiety. You don't relate to that character. You don't get it. You don't get the love of Deadpool or Wolverine, and you don't like those characters. So of course, like, for you don't understand why the score would be higher. So I understand your perspective. I'm just saying I fall on the other end of that.
Man, he has no soul. He didn't like Logan. I went back and watched Logan. I'm sitting there going, how did he not like this?
Why did you need to go
How did he not
rewatch
like
Logan,
this?
Jastin? You watched this fucking movie. He has the same story arc. Right
did you
down
not like
to
Logan?
X-23 going, you've always been an asshole, but you do the right thing, or whatever the fuck she says, which is like the exact same thing she says in fucking Logan. Because he quits being a superhero just like he did in fucking Logan, because the X-Men died, and he blames himself just like he does in the other. It's the same fucking story. It's the same fucking story. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. I feel like I am Mugatu at the end of Zoolander, questioning why everybody loves fucking Zoolander. But unfortunately, unlike him, this movie didn't turn around and hit me with a magnum. I'm still sitting there going, it's the same look. It's the same face, no matter what the fuck you call it. This, to me, was like the epitome of what the Fox Cinematic Marvel Universe was. A endless string of repetitive bullshit. And just nonsensicalness and garbage.
That was a peak reference, though. The Zoolander. That was good.
Yeah. Because that movie's funny. This movie's not. I don't recommend this movie. I don't. I can't in good conscience tell anybody to go watch this fucking movie. I am mad now. I am mad. It's just more the same. I mean, you've seen this movie. You have seen this movie. If you've watched Logan, if you watched any of the Deadpool movies, and you've just seen an interview that Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds have done promoting this movie, just any of them, pick your favorite one. Do you like Hot Ones? Watch that. Do you like BuzzFeed's? Watch that. Do you like the one where they just like throw pickles at each other? I don't know what the fuck they do on YouTube anymore. Just go watch that. Watch that. Watch Logan. Watch any Deadpool movie. Bam. You've got this movie. That's all this movie is. Oh, yeah. And a bunch of your favorite characters from a bunch of movies no one else fucking liked. Why was most of the X-Men references in this movie from X-Men 3? It's weird. It's not worth it. It's not. But I know I'm yelling into a void of nothingness. Because if you like this shit, like Jastin said, you probably already watched it. And if you're like me and you don't like this shit, I don't know, this movie made $500 million. Like, you probably watched it too. Because I'm a man of integrity. I'm going to give this movie 42. 42, one true blades out of 100. Jesus Christ. Since you guys gave this a movie such astoundingly high scores, I'll round it up even a little extra. Cinescore is a 70. Spoilers?
Yep.
Yep. Spoilers.
I really only have two things I want to talk about in this section. I'll let you guys talk more about it. Wholly fluctuating powers of a supervillain Batman. Like Cassandra Nova in one scene just snaps her fingers while looking at Johnny Storm and rips all the skin and flesh off his bones. And then struggles with anybody for the rest of the movie? What the fuck was that? Like, how convenient of a power scale can you fucking get in a movie? You're introduced to her telekinetically ripping the flesh off somebody's bones. And somehow the movie doesn't end right then? With her just thinking about Logan and Deadpool being ripped apart? I get that they have healing factors and all that shit, but like, she could have just like ripped them apart and fed them to that fucking, you know, never ending story beast fucking thing that's in the void or whatever. Like, that was just crazy to me because she does nothing like that the rest of the movie. And it's just all convenience all the time. Second, I want to talk about real quick, my favorite part of this movie, which was Wesley Snipes returning as Blade. I liked that. That scene had a couple of good jokes in it. I liked the joke they made with Jennifer Gardner talking about Daredevil dying and Deadpool being like, "Oh, I'm so sorry for your loss." And she's just like, "Yeah." That's a solid Ben Affleck, Jennifer Gardner joke. I do appreciate that. And then, you know, when Blade, or, you know, when Deadpool's all like talking to Blade and is like, "I didn't think you liked me." He's like, "I don't." Going back to the beef that they had from Blade Trinity. That's why nobody thought that, like, while it was a possibility, nobody thought it would actually happen because they famously don't like each other. But it happened. I thought that was a good joke. And then also the follow-up in that when he's like, "I'm the only person to be Blade and I'm the only person that ever will be," or whatever the fuck he said about, you know, Blade not happening or is happening or who the fuck knows. I was actually going to bring this up in the news section when we were talking about Comic-Con. Anybody notice they didn't talk about Blade coming out? They're announcing Avengers Doomsday, of, you know, Thunderbolts, Avengers Secret War, bringing back Robert Downey Jr. Look at this, Captain America, Brave New World. Look at this, Fantastic Four. No mention of Blade. Wesley Snipes might have been prophetic in this. He might actually end up being the only person that's ever going to play Blade in a movie. Because I just don't think it's happening at this point. I don't. Unless they get him. Unless Mahershala Ali quits because it's just taking too long. And they just go, "I guess Wesley Snipes, can you come back?" And he goes, "I guess." That's the only way I see this movie happening at this point, because it ain't happening any other way. But so I did dig that line. I thought that was funny too. You know. And then the rest of this movie is just, you know, a bunch of shit happening. Some of it makes sense. Most of it doesn't. But it just happens and keeps happening. I kind of disagree with you guys on the fight scenes. I think the first one, you know, when he's fighting all the TVA people, that was fine. When Wolverine and Deadpool first fight, that was fine. When they fought in the car, that was fine. And then after that, every fight scene from that point on just felt like it was people running and fighting for the rest of the movie. Because when it's all the Fox stars and them attacking Cassandra Nova in her Ant-Man palace. It's just a bunch of running and fighting. Then when
You didn't like the Blade Gambit everybody scene fight?
That's what I'm talking about. That scene.
Oh, that one. Okay.
Yeah, it's just them running and fighting. They're just all running around and fighting, just running, fighting, which is exactly what it is when it's Deadpool Wolverine versus the Deadpool Corps. It's just a bunch of running and fighting. Like there's not much difference between those two scenes, just running and fighting. So I actually thought the quality of the action sequences went in reverse. I think it started with the best one, and everyone after that just got a little subsequently worse until the end. Oh, this movie. Heather, what about you?
I figured you would like the joke they made where Deadpool's like, welcome to the Marvel universe. You're hitting it at a low point, or you're coming in at a low point. I thought you would have liked that joke because of how much you don't like Marvel right now.
I did not remember that joke.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with you about the Blade cameo. I think that was my absolute favorite. Like, and the thing is, I know there's a lot of people that talk about like potential other people that are going to be in the movie and all this stuff. I had heard nothing about any cameos in this movie. So all of them were, for me, fun to see because I wasn't expecting any of them. So that was kind of cool. I appreciated that. And I guess in that regard, I'm glad that I was out of the loop on hearing about potential people coming, because for me, I didn't know any of that. So seeing Blade come across the screen, I was like, what is happening? And then, I thought the Gambit one was great too. I really liked that cameo because, I mean, Channing Tatum he's funny. He's a funny guy. Like, he actually holds his own as a comedic actor, and his like towing the line of playing like he's a serious character, but in a funny movie, and the kind of juxtaposition of that he's very good at, and he's done it in other movies too. But yeah, so I thought that was really good. But it's also like, I kind of am the opposite about that fight with everybody, because Gambit in that big fight with everybody running around, I thought he was so cool. I was like, you know what? I would watch a movie of this. Like, I would watch him as like, the main character of a movie. Like, he did a good job with it. I didn't expect it because, you just hear all the things about Gambit and like how that movie didn't get made and all these things. Like, he made me feel like, okay, good job. I would watch it. If they made it, I would watch it. And I really liked the fight scene with all of the Deadpools. I thought was really kind of a fun one, just because you're seeing all the different types in different universes that they have, which was really cool. And then of course, Lady Deadpool being Blake Lively was kind of cool. Yeah, I don't know. I thought it was just like silly fun. And like, I think that the seriousness of it, I think that balanced out the funny of Deadpool, because I do get a little bit what you mean, Sterling, when you've talked about like how he's just super nonstop and things like that. Like, he is like trying so hard to just be like funny and sarcastic at every given moment that he's on screen. And I do think that Wolverine being very serious balanced it out. I think they both balance each other really well. And I think that's why their dynamic works so well. So I think that serious tone, or the serious side of the movie, really lended a good hand in making this movie, I think, what it was. I also liked Mr. Paradox. I thought Paradox was cool. Like, as far as he was a villain. He wasn't the direct like big bad, I guess, but the part that he played was good. And even his moment too, which kind of surprised me at the end when like he thought that Wolverine and Deadpool were dead. And he's like, they actually died like heroes. And like whatever speech he said there, I was like, that was a good moment. Like he just really kind of, he felt that. You could tell he felt that. And it was just kind of, and then immediately being like annoyed that they were still alive. It was just kind of a funny moment. But yeah, I don't know why, but I liked everything that they did with this. Except I do agree about Cassandra Nova, is that her name? The performance was good. Emma Corrin, she's a great actress. Performance was fine. They didn't write her well. I can get on board with that statement, like, because it really was like she can immediately just in the snap of a finger, skin someone alive. But then she just has such a struggle with anybody else. And then it felt like, she was like her whole, like putting her hand inside your mind and all of that was like really creepy and good. But then it was like immediately after she does that and she's like, oh, I want to destroy all of you and whatever. She just so easily gives up her like wanting to destroy them. Like she just so easily, it just took a speech, a very heartfelt speech from somebody that you already are enemies with to just convince you that like, oh no, I guess I don't want to destroy you guys. And I just didn't really care for that. Like, I know she was supposed to be Professor X's sister and, they're appealing to that side of her, but it's also like, but she hadn't seen him in how long? Like, so I just feel like it was a very kind of a cop out way to get them not destroyed by her, if that makes sense. Like they just should have done that storyline better because they build her up to be this super powerful like villain and character. And then they kind of abandon it at the first sign of like a heartfelt speech. And I'm like, if you're a real super villain with all that power, I just don't think that plays well with how they wrote it here. So I think that was probably the weakest part of the movie. But again, I liked the performance. I just think they needed to write her as a villain better than they did in this movie. But really, that's kind of my biggest problem with the film. But yeah, I just think and I also liked the Johnny Storm cameo. That was funny, except here's my problem with that. It has nothing to do actually with like the movie. When I went to go see this movie, the people sitting next to me really thought that it was a fun time to like ruin the cameo for me. So that's kind of my big problem with it. Like they were also those people that it didn't matter what Deadpool was going to say. They automatically were going to be laughing like it's the funniest thing they've ever heard in their lives before he probably even like finishes what he's saying. Like they were just those people. And they're sitting there next to me and they're like analyzing this scene with Chris Evans when they show him. They're analyzing the whole thing and I hear them talking about it and they're like, oh, I know what's going to happen. I know what's going to happen. And basically kind of gave away that it was him as Johnny Storm and not Captain America before I had a chance to enjoy that funny moment. So I'm bummed out that I didn't get to enjoy that the way I would have if that hadn't been ruined for me like that. But as a general rule, I think that was a really like fun, kind of smart cameo to do because he sort of played a little bit throughout the entire film in certain ways, even if you weren't seeing him. They kind of did callbacks to it and all that, especially that end credits, all of that. So yeah, I thought that was also a very good cameo. And I thought it was funny too when he was going through all of the different universes trying to find the right Wolverine and they have the really, really short one. I thought that was a funny joke where they're like, hello, comic accurate Wolverine. And he was just like super short. I just thought that was kind of funny how they did that scene. Yeah. I will say I wasn't the biggest fan of the whole like dog pool thing. I didn't think that was as funny as I think it was supposed to be, with like the dog and his love for that dog and like their connection, how he just wanted to like steal the dog from the nice Deadpool. I didn't like it was funny and it was humorous, I guess I would say. But that was probably the weakest ongoing joke they had, if I have to be like nitpicky about it. But I think the nice Deadpool was funny. I think that was just like a funny play off of Deadpool. But yeah. And then the scene when he's like, he doesn't regenerate and he realizes that as he's using him as a shield. Like, I thought that was kind of funny. But yeah, it has, and it's interesting that you say that Deadpool has less heart in this movie, which I didn't really think about that being the case, because I was like, I think this movie does have a lot of heart, but I feel like it is more from the Wolverine side. So that could be why. But I mean, even that moment they shared when, like, right before they both decide they're going to sacrifice themselves, they, you know, when he basically says, you know, you're the best Wolverine and all of that, like, I thought that was a good little scene between them. Oh, also another joke I liked was the whole, is it Peter? Peter being in like every universe, yeah. And they're like, oh yeah, he's great in we love Peter. And just the most unexpected person is they're like, we love him. And just, you know, they're like, oh, you look good in that suit. And like, just Peter getting his love from everybody when Deadpool's like, what? Like, it's just, that was kind of a funny joke too. So yeah. But yeah, overall, it's one of those where you go into it, you know, you're going to have a good time, but like, I do appreciate that, or most people know they're going to have a good time. I'll correct that statement. But I just like how they really do kind of get meta about it and like make fun of things that MCU has done. Like the Blade joke I thought was also very funny. Like I'm the only Blade and there will only ever be one Blade. And then him just like looking into the camera, like it was good. It was funny. It really was a solid joke. So I like that they can be, you know, critical of themselves in that way because it's Deadpool and that's what he does. So yeah, I don't know. And I don't even really know why I say I like it the best. I guess it really is. Actually, yeah, it is just because it's him with Wolverine. They're both really good characters, but very different. And just seeing their journey and shenanigans throughout was just fun. I also like the moment with Wolverine actually having a mask on. I thought that was cool. I liked that moment. But yeah, that's all I got right now.
Jastin, what about you?
All right. So yeah, when the movie starts off, and that was an action sequence I really liked too, was him traveling back to Wolverine's gravesite in Logan. And I think they were playing the NSYNC Bye Bye Bye. And he was killing everybody to that music and chopping people up and jumping around. Like the opening credits, I thought that was pretty cool. Typically in Deadpool movies, they do a cool opening credit. And that was cool too. I liked him taking the desecrated Logan body, but it's adamantium, and he was not hitting people with it and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. I thought that was a very creative action sequences, and you know, the NSYNC song was cool, and you know, I just thought that was a pretty solid opening scene. And yeah, this whole storyline and them using the TVA and the, you know, kind of making this justifying why Deadpool is doing this, and then him sort of finding out, oh no, my timeline's going to get destroyed, and because of his time traveling shenanigans in the second one, which was hilarious when he went back in time and shot Ryan Reynolds before Ryan Reynolds could take the Green Lantern role. I mean, that was so hilarious in the second movie, but I like how because he did those things, it conflicted with the TVA. So what we know about the TVA, that would be a conflict. So that all made sense in my head, like why he's having to do this and everything. And then but the whole idea of him, he had to have a Wolverine because Wolverine was significant because of what happened in the Logan. You know, it gets a little convoluted with like why he needs Wolverine and he needed a Wolverine in order to do because Wolverine was the one that made this big change in the timeline. Really didn't understand how Wolverine's sacrifice for X-23 and those kids, I didn't quite understand how that impacted so many timelines and so many things. It felt like that was just something where they made it important to the timelines so that we could sort of justify and have this story. Like, I got why Deadpool violated it because of his time traveling. That made sense. The Wolverine part, though, kind of felt like, okay, they're throwing this in because we need Wolverine in this, but that didn't feel as justified as the Deadpool part of it.
I mean, the reasoning for that was that, so when Wolverine dies, since he was like it's supposedly every timeline has an anchor being, you know, and so him dying as the anchor being is what's ultimately like is supposed to ripple and to be like the first step in the ultimate path that leads to the destruction of that timeline. But the thing is the reason why it shouldn't feel like it like lines up directly is because it's supposed to take like thousands of years. It's just once the anchor being is gone, that timeline will ultimately be, you know, destroyed. It takes thousands and thousands of years, but like that's the what's the word they used in Spider-Verse, like that canon event that leads to that. Like that's what happens. So it makes sense that you wouldn't see a direct correlation to the universe dying and him dying, because it's supposed to just be thousands of years in the future. It's not necessarily supposed to feel like a sequential thing. It's just the catalyst that starts it. It's, you know, it's the gust of wind that knocks the ball off the, you know, the ledge that hits the, you know what I mean? It's that. So yes, you're not supposed to feel that per se with that character. What I have a weird thing about is how is Wolverine dying in the future? Because Logan takes place in the future, going to affect Deadpool in the past. Like, why would Paradox go, oh, okay, Wolverine's gonna die in the future, so let me go destroy this universe now, before he's technically dead, because Logan takes place after the events of this movie. But it doesn't, because he's dead. How does that happen?
Wait, but in the second movie, I thought Deadpool 1 happens, then Logan happens, then Deadpool 2 happens, right?
Logan was supposed to happen like, I think in like 2040 or 2050 or something like that, I thought. Like Logan wasn't taking place like at that time, because it's got all that future shit. You know, it's got the genetically modified corn. Fucking Colossus shouldn't be alive. But we see Colossus alive.
That's right. I see what you're saying. But the weird thing is when the second Deadpool movie starts, and I know this just because I watched it recently, it starts with Deadpool narrating, and he's aware of the Logan movie. He's already aware of it because but I don't know if that just counts as fourth wall breaking, but it starts with him going, well, you just had to one up me, didn't you?
Yes. Oh no,
and die.
I totally
and
get
he's talking as if
that's
it happened before, but I get what you're saying. But that's fourth wall breaking.
Yes.
He's talking about the cinematic movie that happened before, but technically the film itself happened in a future time.
The events of Logan take place in 2029. So,
okay.
I'm just saying, let's argue that this movie takes place in 2026. Logan would still be alive in that universe. He wouldn't be going to his grave because he'd still be alive. Plus, all the X-Men would have to be killed. So how would Negasonic Teenage Warhead and Colossus be alive? Because, Professor Xavier killed them all.
Oh, yeah. And actually, now that I think about it, he did travel. He timed traveled to that grave. That's why he was there. He was looking because he thought that Logan would still be alive because of the his healing factor and the adamantium. They acknowledge that. My bad. They acknowledge that because he had to time travel to get to that gravesite because he thought he would still be alive. He wasn't. And that's when he started looking for all these other Wolverines.
But that means in the year that the movie's taking place, like the timeline that he gets pulled from to go, and all this other shit, Logan would still be alive. The Wolverine for that universe is still alive. Because he has to travel forward in time to go to the grave. Like
so you're saying the Wolverine in Deadpool's timeline?
Yes, would still be alive at the time that Mr. Paradox is saying Logan dying means we're going to destroy your universe. Logan would still be alive because it's not that movie doesn't take place in 2030. You know what I mean?
Is there a Wolverine in Deadpool's timeline?
Yeah. There'd have to be. Because he says Logan dying is what dooms your universe. Mr. Paradox says Logan dying and sacrificing himself for the kids is, the ultimate, like, he's the anchor being. So him dying means your universe is going to die. We're going to blow it up sooner because I don't feel like waiting for 1,000 years. Like, that's what he says. The only way that's possible is if Deadpool and Wolverine would have to take place in the year like 2031. And all the X-Men would have to be dead. Like I said, so that means Colossus has to be dead. Negasonic Teenage Warhead has to be dead. And what's his name? Her girlfriend, Negasonic's girlfriend, Yukio or whatever. She'd have to be dead. It doesn't line up. I know it's silly comic book shit. And I know technically what they were most likely referring to is that timeline is the Fox Cinematic Universe. So when they filmed Logan, that was kind of the death of the universe because it's like, yep, we're never going to have Wolverine again. So I guess all these movies are going to suck. That's the meta commentary of it all. But the way it's presented in the movie doesn't work. And also Logan doesn't technically take place in that universe. Logan technically takes place in an alternate timeline in 2029. Doesn't even take place.
And see, maybe that's the problem I have with it. And that's why I felt like it felt like a shoehorned reason to have him have to go after Wolverine, because that's the part I wasn't understanding is how are those two things related? Because if he just killed them, if he just sacrificed himself and died, and that was the point I was going to make, then to me, that timeline just plays out. I mean, it just played out to the future. He made a sacrifice. He died. It's over. And I guess that's the point I was trying to make is I didn't understand how it matched up either, or how that death in that particular timeline affected this Deadpool. I don't think they necessarily were saying it's all in the same timeline, or that that Deadpool exists in that timeline. I think it's more of what the other thing you were saying. It's a meta commentary of all of them are part of Fox, and that's why it affected this Deadpool. I think is what they were getting at. But either way, it just feels like a shoehorned way for us to need Wolverine.
Yes.
You know
yes.
what I mean? Either way, it just felt that way. Like, I didn't understand either way how that would, because to me, it just felt like that timeline played out. He didn't do anything. He didn't, you know what I mean? Now, if he had time traveled or something to help X-23, I would understand it a little bit more. Or if it had been explained that he wasn't supposed to die, but he did, or some shit like that, then it makes a little more sense to me. Like, Wolverine would have had to have done something to have adversely affected his timeline. You see what I mean? But what did he do? He just lived his life and then made a sacrifice, and that's it. So to me, the timeline just played out. That's why I couldn't understand, how does this affect Deadpool? You know?
I did just see a little commentary where someone said, and this could be a cop out though, of like, because Deadpool is one of those characters that like he knows he's a comic book character, he breaks the fourth wall and he's able to see like what's going on in other comic books and movies in whatever timeline, because he knows he's a comic book character, so he can see what's going on in the others since he breaks the fourth wall. I don't know if that's a cop out or if that's a real explanation for it, of the whole why did the like Logan took place in 2029, you know? So I don't know, but I just saw somebody was commenting about that.
Well,
yes.
Now that you say that, it triggers something too. Because in the second movie, now I'm thinking about that narration where he was like, man, Wolvie, you had to go and sacrifice yourself and die. So Deadpool is going to die in this one. And he was kind of talking like when he was breaking the fourth wall in that second movie, he was almost talking like what happened in the Logan film is impacting the way he felt and the way this film is going to go, because you had to die, so I'm going to die too in this movie. You know, he was kind of like, almost like he had to one up. So if you look at it, like you were saying, Heather, in that fourth wall meta sort of way, in that way, what happened in the Logan film did affect him, because it directly affected how he went and approached his second movie. Even though the timelines aren't related, it doesn't really matter to Deadpool, because like you said, he's aware, he can see everything. He's aware. So you could, I guess, argue that him being affected by what he knew about the Logan movie affected his approach to the second movie, which is why he time traveled, which you could argue is why he time traveled, which is why he broke the laws of the TVA. So maybe that's how it's all related, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, and all that's fair and all that's whatever. My only issue with it is this, that the Mr. Paradox from the TVA distinctly says Logan dying in Logan means your universe talking to Deadpool does not have an anchor being anymore. Therefore, will die in thousands and thousands of years, but we're going to blow it up now. You know what I mean? Like,
that's fair.
A character not breaking the fourth wall combined the stories.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Because Deadpool's like, oh, I'm the anchor character. He's like, no, it's not you. It's Wolverine. Yeah. So, yeah, I get what you're saying. That's fair. Yeah. So there is an inconsistency there unless there's another way to explain that.
Yeah. And like I said, the only way that it works in my head is if you go back and watch the second movie, what his motivations, some of his motivations are because of what Logan did in the Logan movie. You know, he directly talks about it. He directly says it. He references the Logan movie a few times in the second movie. So that's the only correlation that makes sense to me, is he was motivated to, in a fourth wall sort of way, he was trying to one up the Logan film. And in doing that, he time traveled and therefore came into conflict with the TVA. It's the only way they connect to me. Otherwise, they don't, like Sterling is saying. But that's the only connection I can make from the films respectively. But either way, it's a little confusing. It's a little murky. This is one of the problems with the film. You know what I'm saying? Like, which was kind of the bigger point I'm getting to. This is kind of one of its problems with the time traveling and how these two characters ultimately are connected, you know. But anyway, but once they are together, that aside, once they are together, I just really, really liked it. And I liked him going through all these different timelines, looking for all these different Wolverine variants. Yes, the comic accurate short Wolverine, that was a solid joke. I even thought that it was cool that we got to see one of the brown and tan colored Wolverine. That's an old school Wolverine. So I'm glad that
everything.
Even.
I know that they're like, oh yeah, we're so excited. Look, we're bringing in the yellow and blue uniform. Fuck you. The uniform should have been the brown and tan, dude. The brown and tan Wolverine.
There are people that love that one.
What's better? I mean, outside of like, I do get like probably a more accurate one is his like X-Force costume, which is like black and dark gray. That is probably the most accurate costume for what Wolverine would actually wear if he chose anything. But man, that brown and tan suit. What is better? Nice. That is infinitely better than that neon yellow, bright blue bullshit. You can't be stealthy.
It's a toss up with me. It's a toss up with me because I'm not like a Wolverine fan like that. So it's kind of like whatever, you know. I'd be more passionate about this if this was an argument about, you know, how Todd McFarlane draws Spider-Man versus how this or the artist, you know, or Spider-Man suits, you know, I'd be more passionate if it was we were talking about that. But with Wolverine, it's like, yes, I like the brown and tan, but I also like the X-Men 97 or the X-Men 96 blue and yellow Wolverine. It's got an iconic, both of them are iconic looks of his. I was just glad that they decided to put him in a suit, in one of his iconic suits. And he was in it for pretty much the entire movie. So, which was a complete 180 from the tank top jeans, you know, regular ass clothes Wolverine that we're used to getting most of the time, or the black suit Wolverine from the movies because the Matrix is cool, so everybody's going to wear the black suit. I mean, it's still better than all that shit, you know? It was cool seeing Hugh Jackman, the person who's played it for so long, in one of the iconic looks. And he even liked it, which surprised me. He was like, damn, man, I wonder why I haven't, you know, he in an interview, and it could have been just him being He could have been sucking up to fandom. I imagine they do that with these comic movies. But even he said, you know what? When I got in the suit, I had the thought, man, I should have done this years ago. He said that he enjoyed being in the suit and he thought it felt right for him to be in the suit. And I thought that was cool that he said that.
I mean, to be fair, over the last 20 years, they are way better at making those types of suits now.
Yeah, that too.
You know what I mean? Like, these people having to wear these suits for hours and hours on end, they've gotten way better at the materials they use, the way they can stitch stuff, all kinds of stuff is just better now. I think most of it has to do with materials too. We have better fabrics than we had even 20 years ago. True. They've got like modal and shit. Like, just think about how much underwear has changed in the last 20 years. Tell me they can't make super suits different? Like, think about the fabric that they just make hoodies out of now. Wildly different than shit we were getting. T-shirts, like undershirts. Shit feels vastly different than it did back in the day. T-shirts used to be really thick and just kind of heavy, like a little scratchy. Like, it was either that or they were paper thin. There was like no medium to anything. So I think now, like, especially, they can make a suit that looks like that probably just feels good to wear.
Yeah.
You know?
And there was even kind of some meta commentary on that whenever Deadpool was like, look, and he can actually turn his head, which was kind of a knock at the old Batman costumes and, people like Keaton and stuff complaining that they couldn't even like move their head in those costumes. So even that was funny. A lot of like, and that's something too, like there's a lot of like comic booky movie fan inside jokes like that, where I think if you're just a person who started this with the Deadpool movies or the Logan movies, you're not going to understand a reference like that. And there are quite a few references like that where it's just inside jokes about these old ass movies and stuff that I wonder how much of that went over people's head. But I've seen all those movies, so I was there. I got the jokes. I got the inside jokes. He can actually turn his head. Yeah, I knew exactly what he was referencing, and it got a chuckle out of me. But, I just wonder how many people sit through these things and have a grasp of those inside jokes, because they were making references to stuff way before Deadpool and Wolverine came out. So, sometimes I just wonder how much of that was lost on people, but neither here or there. Either way, I found a lot of that stuff fun. And a lot of times too, I think when he was breaking the fourth wall of the 3 Deadpool movies, I think the fourth wall breaks in this were some of the best fourth wall breaks, because he got to harp on Marvel a little bit. There were times where he was like, come on, guys, this multiverse stuff, I mean, it's been miss after miss. It's just not quite working, is it? He got to say things like that. Or like when he was just kind of talking about Fox and yada, yada. And now I'm over here and, he would just say things like, fuck you, Fox. Or, sometimes it was just funny, like how his fourth wall commentary on the quality of some of the films, what the state of the MCU, and him just understanding and knowing it, and him sort of sometimes saying things that people have been thinking or people have been saying, like Heather referenced the low point. All of that was good. Like, I really thought the fourth wall breaks in this were on point for the most part. I really, really liked them in this one. Compared to the other ones, I felt like he just got to dig at a lot more stuff, so they felt fun in this. I also love the Chris Evans cameo. there were a lot of fun things about that because I like how at first they sort of played it like it was Captain America, and even Deadpool was sort of acting like, oh, this is going to be great. And, he sort of had on a cloak where you may have might have thought that it was Captain America. And I love how they played that off. And then all of a sudden he goes flame on and you realize, nope, he's the other character. I thought that was fun. That was really funny. And even though Chris Evans wasn't in it long, I thought that he was very funny in this just for the parts that he was in it. I thought he could do the comedy stuff with them. So I wish he was in it more. I really liked his dynamic with them. I thought it was funny. And the after credits scene at the end where you find out he actually did say all of that stuff about Cassandra Nova and everything. I thought that was pretty funny because it was word for word everything that Deadpool said that he actually said. And so I thought that was funny. If you're not going to do anything that pushes a story forward in those final scenes or whatever, then just do something funny. And I thought that was a great callback joke to that. And Chris Evans was just wonderful in that. With his line delivery and that. I wonder how long it took to remember that shit.
Right.
I know he's an actor, but that was a lot of shit. That was a lot of shit talking. But yeah, those were all funny scenes. And I agree with you, Heather. The fight sequences where Deadpool and Wolverine are fighting each other, those were awesome, man. They were entertaining. They were bloody. They were funny because that these two guys can't kill each other. So it almost feels, but also they're such stubborn characters and kind of stuck in their way and wanting their way at that moment. So you could totally see those characters dicing each other up, shooting each other up, stabbing each other up out of just stubbornness and rage and anger, and then just getting to the point to where they get tired almost. Or just have to be stopped because something that's actually important is going on. But yeah, you could totally see these characters doing this. They were the right characters to do that kind of thing with. And because we're in a rated R movie and because both of them sort of are kind of like these killer type characters, all of the violence and the blood of it and all of that just made perfect sense for them. And the car one was hilarious. I like how the other one was really cool and they were doing a lot with slow motion. And that was cool when Wolverine almost was animalistically galloping along the ground. And that one was really cool in that way. But the car one where they were inside the car just cutting each other up was just hilarious, man. Just the way they did it, it was just so funny.
Yeah.
And it was so entertaining. And the reason why they were fighting, just the different emotions that were being felt at that time versus the first one, still, and them neither one having learned the lesson from the first fight that we can't kill each other. I just think it really worked for their characters. That's why those scenes worked for me. And then by the time we get to the cameos and stuff, I was digging the Blade cameo. Jennifer Garner, I was like, oh, she's in this. But what they did with her was pretty funny. I like also the joke too, where she's she said something to the effect of, yeah, I've got to finish my story. And then Gambit was like, or start. I thought that was funny. Because I know that Channing Tatum, always wanted to play the Gambit character, and that was supposed to happen, and it didn't happen. So it kind of felt like a cool moment that he got to do that. We got to see him as this Gambit character. And I loved how Deadpool just kept making fun of the way he sounded. I thought that was great. And when he said, who's your dialect coach? The Minions? I just, that was a solid joke too. I just busted out laughing on that joke. I thought all of that was funny, how he was just harping on him, and like all of that back and forth with them was funny. And like none of those characters I felt like really overstayed their welcome. I thought the fight scene with all of them was cool. It was cool seeing, you know, Wesley Snipes jump and kick and do his, you know, he has a certain way he does his kicks and punches in his movies and his martial arts and stuff. It was neat getting to see that for a little bit again, and him using his blade weapons and him doing his poses and stuff. You know, it was very nostalgic, and it felt like, okay, that was cool. And then seeing Gambit do the kinetic cards and doing the stuff where he's blowing up people with his kinetic energy and stuff, you know, all of that was fine. And I don't think any of that overstayed its welcome or anything like that. I think it was just enough. You got just enough of them. And then when they needed to be out of the movie, they were. So nothing about them, they didn't last too long. It was kind of cool. And it was kind of a nice swan song for some of these characters that were forgotten about or that you felt like were in lesser movies when they ended. It was nice that they kind of got a moment to sort of redeem those roles in a little way. So, you know, nothing offensive there. And yeah, the last thing I'll say is just my problems with the Cassandra character. And yeah, I get what y'all are saying about how in one scene she snaps her fingers and takes the skin off of a person. And why didn't we try to do that again? And I guess they were going for the thing of when she found out about the whole plot of the TVA trying to do that thing, she kind of wanted them alive because they knew about it, and she had a different motive other than killing them. And so she changed kind of what she was doing. And now she's like, oh, I got a chance to ruin all the timelines and there to just be a void, and then I can rule everything. So it felt like her interests kind of changed. And so she kind of needed them alive in some moments. But at the beginning of the movie, she was going to leave them to be eaten by the void thing anyway. So it's like, okay, well, I guess you could argue she didn't kill them because she wanted the void thing, monster thing, to eat them. She was trying to feed the monster or whatever, and they escaped. But even when they got on that aerial thing and escaped, could she have just pointed her fingers at that and just took them off the thing and just put them in the mouths of the monster? Probably could have. So, you know, there's kind of no real way around that. I think she needed to need them alive from the beginning. She needed to have heard about the thing and needed them alive for some reason, because it was just too easy for her to just have killed them at any moment. And then being able to put her hand in somebody and basically see their memories or control them or just manipulate somebody's brain in that way, it almost felt like she was a bit overpowered. Like maybe she was too powerful for the likes of them, you know? And she really had no weaknesses. Her only weakness was just, I guess, her greed or her desire to be the ultimate ruler of everything, but she really had no weaknesses. I don't know. Maybe they tried to make the Juggernaut helmet a weakness, but they put that on her and then immediately needed to take it off of her because of the situation or whatever. So that felt like a non-factor. So yeah, I agree. The way that character was written was just, and her power set, that was just a tough balance with the story that they were trying to tell. I think they needed a different character, or maybe somebody less godlike. I think she was just too strong of a character for them. And then, like I said, you got a lot of her story exposited, but I think it would have been cool to see some of that, like how she got put into the void and how she sort of became the ruler over these people. and all these other heroes that tried to face her and died. It would have been cool to have seen some of this, to see this ascension to this sort of void queen person that she was. But I agree, the actor played the character well and everything like that. But yeah, there were just some things inconsistent with the writing of that character. So yeah, that to me was probably the weaker part narratively of the film, was just the development of that villain. She was fine, but I think she just could have been a lot better, and I would have thought the movie's quality would have been a lot better. And other than that, you know, the way that the movie wraps up is cool. I like the Deadpools fight. I thought seeing all those different Deadpools was cool. When they were going through the bus, just murdering them, I thought that was fun. And, you know, they dice up all of them and then they all just regenerate. So, you know, all of that was cool and all of that was fun. The Peter part was cool. And at the end, where him and Deadpool do the little moment where they hold on to each other so that they could prevent Cassandra from taking all the timelines and everything. All that was solid moments and stuff like that. And then the whole joke about Deadpool saying he let himself go after the divorce and everything like that. But then his shirt rips off and Hugh Jackman is ripped as fuck. And Deadpool is like, damn, all right. You know, I thought that was solid too. That was pretty cool. And I mean, golly, I know Hugh Jackman doesn't like how his regimen for these movies, like he has to get jacked for these movies. But bruh, hats off to you, bruh. What is he, 56? Something like that?
Definitely in his 50s, yeah.
Yeah, you know, but to be in his 50s and look even remotely close to that. Now, granted, some of that could have been CGI and camera effects and, you know, they could have helped him. But for the most part, he looked great, man. Even when he was in the suit, though, you could tell that fool was jacked. You know, you could see his arms and stuff. You could tell he got jacked for this. So hats off to him, man.
Before scenes like that, though, he typically dehydrates himself for like 72 hours.
Yeah. Yep.
That's why he
sure
gets
does.
That little bit of extra definition and that little extra veininess is from him dehydrating himself, typically for things like that. And I think that's why he was kind of okay with doing it for this movie, because he would only have to do it that one time.
Yeah.
Like the rest of the movie, he could say, you know, yeah, he's sleeveless, you know, but he's not having to like dehydrate himself and worried about if he eats some rice, is it the shot not going to look as good because he's got some water weight on him. Like, I think that's one reason why he was a little more okay with it this time is and I'm not saying it's easy, but it's easier to make your arms look jacked all the time than it is to make your torso and your obliques and all of that to look ultra defined all the time.
No, and that's some real shit, because even now, like when I try to content create and take pictures, sometimes I take the pictures and I'm like, man, where did the abs go? And other times I take them and they're there. And I don't know what the difference is other than it's lighting, or maybe sometimes, like you said, maybe the water and just what I did the day before. It's weird, but like
some
it's
of that
hard.
can be sleep. If you're not getting enough sleep, your body will start producing some stress hormones, which means it will retain water. Things like that. The body's weird when it comes to a lot of that stuff. From what I've heard, one of the best ways to always get that type of stuff, take those pictures early in the morning, like within the first half hour of you waking up, before you even drink any coffee, before you do anything. That's typically when your body's going to be the least like retained at that point, you know?
Okay.
Because
and now that you say that, some of my best pictures have been in the morning. Yeah. So
typically the suggestion is
sense.
like wake up and like use the restroom and that's it. Don't even drink your coffee yet. Take your pictures then. That's when your body will like essentially be holding on to like the least, because at that point it's been a while since you even last ate. You know,
true, because all that time sleeping.
And the reason why bodybuilders and stuff like that, they stay away from carbs, especially coming up to a thing, is not to say there's anything inherently bad with carbs. It's just every gram of carbohydrates you eat, the body will retain anywhere from 4 to 10 grams of water. So, you know, even if you only eat 20 grams of carbs in a day, which would be insane, your body might be holding 200 grams of water from that.
Wow.
You know, so if you just haven't eaten anything in a while and all this other stuff, your body will let go of some of that stuff, you know, and that's it.
Okay.
So yeah, that's typically the best time to take some pictures like that.
Okay. Good to know. And that's an interesting way to end this. But with that, I think I am done talking about the film. And I guess, and just to quickly comment on what I think it means for the MCU, or I don't know if it means much of anything.
I don't think it means shit. I think it might mean some shit for Secret Wars. Because I think Secret Wars, they're going to pull in as many of the Fox people. You know, they're going to pull in as many people as they can into that movie.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
as far as the MCU goes, this really isn't an MCU movie outside of the TVA. This isn't an MCU movie. This is a Fox movie.
Pretty much. And it was kind of like them saying goodbye to it. So, I mean, I guess you could say that maybe, like you said, in the future MCU movies, they could just now pull characters from this. So it kind of, you know, so you can have the X-Men and some, I guess some people you didn't have, you could have them. And I imagine Hugh Jackman will do some more stuff. So I probably isn't the last we've seen of him. I mean, if anything, maybe the bigger impact is meta, because it kind of shows that there's still a market for this stuff. I think maybe with the MCU taking the break and the Marvels didn't do that well at the box office, I guess if a person was wondering, is there still a market for this? Are there still comic book movies that people will still care about and pay and go see and actually anticipate? And can they still are they still able to make the kind of money that they were making? Maybe this shows that I guess they can still, you know, I guess there's still a market for this, but it may also show it all depends on who's in it, you know, who's in it and what actors are in it. Yeah.
But also that, do I necessarily agree that there is just a default superhero fatigue? No, I don't. But what I do think, because we've had superheroes for decades.
Yeah.
You know, if I could read comics for most of my life, and I can still read a superhero story, don't tell me there's superhero fatigue. You know, it's how you're presenting them. How often are you doing it? Are you making, you know, that's the thing is I like about comics is I read a lot of characters that don't typically have big arcs with other people and all this other stuff. I can kind of just read the shit I want to read. Where you get fatigue even in comic books and all this other stuff, it's not superhero fatigue. It's event fatigue. Oh, so I have to read this book to understand this book that I do read. I have to read this ancillary book and I have to read this other tie-in to understand where that's coming from. That's what the movies became. That becomes fatiguing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know we talked about kind of how some of the movies kind of got away from, some, and then some did it and some didn't. But either way, we had kind of gotten away from doing the kind of movies where it's just like they take a genre of some sort and just mix it with the comic book stuff. Like how we were talking, like how Winter Soldier was like that,
That's
political.
That's a Soviet era spy thriller. That's that Cold War shit.
Yeah, but with comic books. And, you know, we talked about that and how they had gotten away from that. And I don't know, maybe like in this movie, I think also it just benefited from there being a break. Like we just hadn't had a Marvel movie in a while. So maybe just the fact that there was nothing probably helped this. If there had been 2 other movies before this, or there had been, you know, some other Marvel movies that came out before, would it have been as anticipated or done as well? I mean, possibly. I mean, maybe. Maybe it was just the Wolverine. Maybe it was just that too. It was the Jackman factor and the fact that he was coming back to do this. And I don't know, they had a way of making this felt special, I guess, because of the team up aspect.
This relied on infinitely less. This relied on, you could have watched any of the X-Men movies, just one. You don't even have to watch all of them. Watch any of them and have an interest in Deadpool. Have watched one Deadpool movie. Like, yes, there's info from the other one, sure. True. But you could get away with watching a Deadpool movie and an X-Men movie and watch this.
Yeah. Even I myself just went back and watched the first 2 Deadpools just because I enjoyed them. And then I watched Logan. But I didn't have to go back and watch anything else. You know, I didn't watch X-Men, you know, the New Mutants or First Class, or I didn't have to watch any of that stuff.
Yeah,
you know,
you don't have to then also watch the TV series. You don't have to watch X-Men 97, and you don't have to watch this and that to understand what the fuck's going on in this.
Yeah,
you know, like I said, there's crossover fatigue in the movies. Oh, you didn't watch Loki season 2, episode 4. You're not going to understand this movie that came out 3 years later. Then the fuck is that?
Yeah. And they did a good job in this in staying away from all of that, because when you introduced the TVA, you couldn't help but think about Loki. But thank goodness he was nowhere in here. They didn't even mention him. You know, we're dealing with some other department of the TVA. So that was probably a smart decision. You know, you're dealing with things that really didn't have, even though that was an MCU element, that's pretty much as close as they got to anything you had to watch or know of before.
It's the TVA and the Void are the only things from the MCU. That and Happy Hogan. You know, Happy Hogan.
Yeah, Happy. Yeah, Happy was in it.
You know, but outside of that, you don't really need it. But you're not really going to just hate this movie if you don't know what the fuck the TVA is going into it, though.
True.
It doesn't break the whole thing. Yeah. Does it enhance the movie if you know that? Sure. It doesn't break the movie if you don't.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that that's what this movie benefits from. Like I said, there's less crossover needed. You know, it's just, that's where I think the MCU is getting bogged down, is crossover after crossover after crossover.
Yeah.
You know?
And then they were coming out so often. There was TV stuff, then there was movie stuff, then there was TV stuff, and there was movie stuff. So maybe this little bit of a drought and everything might have helped sort of make people more anticipated for it. But it also begs the question. So, like, I wonder how the Captain America New World Order is going to do. I wonder.
Brave New World.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Brave New World. That's right. It changed. I can't believe I forgot the new name. But, like, I wonder how that's going to do, because, like, on one end, you would have had to have seen the television series to, well, no, you wouldn't have. Actually, no, you wouldn't have, because at the end of Endgame, you know he's Captain America. He gets the shield. So actually,
that
you
was
could
my
come
major
into
complaint
this.
with Falcon and Winter Soldier is ultimately it starts with him as Captain America. He stops and then it ends with him as Captain America again. So, okay. Like the new, his partner, what's his name? John Torres or whoever his partner is going to be. That was introduced in that. So maybe a little bit. You know, John Walker in the Thunderbolts was introduced in it. There's a little bit of tie over, but honestly, Isaiah Bradley ties into.
Yeah.
There's going to be some elements that cross over. I don't think it will be enough to break the movie, though.
Hopefully not. And I mean, I was talking about previews that I liked. I liked the preview for it. It felt a little more Winter Soldiery than it did Marvel-y. You know what I'm saying? You barely caught a glimpse of the Red Hulk, but most of it was banter back and forth with him and the president and him talking about what if we don't agree on something, or, you know, your department's been compromised, and do you know that, or did you not want to know that? You know, there was all this kind of, it felt very Winter Soldiery to me. It felt like maybe we're going back to some things that worked, but, you know, so I'm hopeful for it, but I just wonder how that's going to be compared to this, because this is definitely a different animal.
I think the bigger testament of the health and status of the MCU is Brave New World, not this.
Yeah.
This can
that's
succeed
going to be
all
more
at
of an
once.
indicator.
If Brave New World fails, Marvel's in trouble.
Yeah.
This is going to do whatever it does. Don't use this as the litmus test of what we're doing or what they're doing. It's two different animals. It really is. I do want to comment real quick at the end of this movie that you brought it up, Jastin. When they've got the matter and antimatter tanks, and they're like, oh, you got to combine the matter and the antimatter to stop her. I have a huge problem with that scene, because Paradox is like, well, you got to get the antimatter, but when it touches the matter, they don't like each other, so they're going to like cause some shit. But everything around it is matter. Air is matter. The people are matter. Fucking the heat, the plasmas matter. Liquids matter. The instant it touches anything, it touches matter.
True.
You don't need to cross the streams, you know? You don't need to cross them together. Just fucking touch the antimatter. Bam, that means the antimatter touches matter. The fuck is this? We need to combine the two. You do automatically.
That is true.
Yeah, I have tons of issues with that. Like
They
that's
just needed to hold hands, Sterling. They needed to combine their powers. They needed a Captain Planet moment.
Then you need to have it be antimatter and tachyons or something. Pull some shit from Star Trek, because tachyons are the molecules that allow them to travel through time in Star Trek. You create a tachyon field and you travel through, creates the wormhole, and you go through. Do that shit. That's not real either, but at least it's not breaking just normal basic level fucking physics. That's literally day one, like physics shit or chemistry, whatever the fuck you want to call, like day one science. Matter is just, you know, solid, liquid, gas, plasma. Done.
You weren't supposed to be thinking about this. You were supposed to be enamored with a shirtless Hugh Jackman, and you just didn't understand.
I've seen a shirtless Hugh Jackman for like 9 other fucking movies. You got to bring something new if you're going to distract me. You could have at least, you could have given me at least a shirtless Channing Tatum. You had Magic Mike himself in this movie, and I don't get a shirtless Channing Tatum.
You did have Magic Mike.
Just saying. You want to distract me from the matter antimatter problem at the end of this movie? Have Zazie Beetz show up at the fucking end of that. Distract me.
And you know
real
what?
quick.
I will agree with you on that. I missed her. she was badass in the second movie. She was going back and watching that. I was like, man, she was badass. And so was Josh Brolin as Cable. And then his friend that's at the bar is, what happened to that actor?
Oh, that's TJ Miller. And you don't want him in this movie.
What happened? Did he get canceled?
Yeah, buddy.
Oh,
bad.
Okay.
Like
Bad.
History of violently abusing women and sexually assaulting them. Going back to college. Now,
Yeah.
Holy shit.
He had a
Okay.
brain tumor removed recently, and he says now he's fixed. And I'm like, cool. But there's like, 3 accounts of you doing that in college. 2 different women. So I don't think you can blame the brain tumor, bro. So now he's like an ultra right wing, comedian because he got canceled by the left. So now he hates minorities.
Oh my God.
That
Okay,
shit.
then.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
I hadn't heard
so-
about that last part.
Well, I'm just saying, like, now he's just like, now that he got canceled, he does like Fox News or like he does Fox News comedian specials
yeah, I didn't know that.
talking about cancel culture and pronouns and shit like that. Cause, if you get, canceled for sexually assaulting people, that just means you have to hate trans people all of a sudden. That's just, they're correlated for whatever reason. But yeah, it's that stuff. It's kind of like Roseanne when she was canceled for being racist. So now she just hates trans people too. It's just they have to hate trans people no matter what they were canceled for. Yeah.
I remember too, like, I don't know if it was when the second Deadpool came out or whatever, but I just remember there was an interview with him where he was essentially just saying like he didn't want to come back to Deadpool because Ryan Reynolds was a problem.
It was after all this.
Oh.
It was a few years after Deadpool 2.
Okay.
They were talking about one of the scenes when like they've done in the Deadpool 1 and 2 where they just sit across from each other, insulting each other nonstop. TJ Miller was like, yeah, we were filming that. And he was being real mean to me, like making it real personal. And the crew was laughing, but at this point, like I said, he's already canceled. So of course, everyone else is the problem. Not you. Everyone else was a problem. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, fuck that guy.
Yeah.
But
we
I
didn't
do
want
agree with
TJ
the other
Miller
two.
back. Yes.
Yeah, I don't want him back. Yeah, after hearing that, no, I don't want him back.
I get like Josh Brolin is a super big actor now. He was Thanos, all this shit. So maybe you can't get him to come back for a cameo. But you tell me you can get Zazie Beetz at least for the party at the beginning of the movie and at the end of the movie? You couldn't have
that
her
would've
eating
been
cake?
cool. Yeah.
There's a big
So-
Zazie Beetz shaped hole in this movie. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. She was tight. She was tight in the second movie. But anyway, that's it from me. I just want to say I do agree with you on that.
Sterling, didn't you say you had thoughts about the end credit scene?
Oh, yeah. So this movie actually lies about that. Because when Deadpool is saying all the shit that like Johnny Storm says, he said, like he's like, he said all this shit. Like Logan's acting like he didn't. Logan is acting like that's a lie. But Logan would have seen it happen.
I didn't catch that. Yeah, that's
I'm
fair.
trying to remember how Logan was acting. I don't know if it was acting like he didn't do it, or was it like, no, shut up, like don't.
To me, it was
tell
both.
her.
But to me, there was an air of he didn't say that. He's like, no, this guy's lying. The guy just talks. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it just felt like he was denying it, but he would have witnessed it happen. But also, you don't know if Johnny Storm is good or not. You don't know if you need to protect that man. He could have been exiled in the void because he's a child rapist. You can't just you can't just assume that he's fine. Like, come on. I'm just saying. Like that was weird to me. But I will admit, I could be wrong. Maybe you're right, Jastin. He's saying that as in just don't get this guy killed. Like, shut up. Don't snitch on him. That could have been it. But whenever I play it back in my head, I see it as he's mad at Deadpool because he thinks Deadpool's lying. And then when you find out it happened, I'm like, but why wouldn't Logan know that? He was literally the same distance away. So
yeah,
maybe
you make a point. And like I said, I can't even really remember exactly how he was acted. So yeah, you could totally be right on that. I'm
just going to assume, Jastin, at some point you'll rewatch this movie. I probably won't.
Why not?
Because I don't typically rewatch shit I hate outside of having to rewatch Tarot. Because we had to record it so much later than the first time I watched it and I forgot it. So outside of that, I try not to rewatch shit I don't like. So Jastin, would you rewatch it? If you remember, just look at that scene.
Okay.
And let us know. That's all. Because I am watching it. So. Anything else, guys?
Nah.
I think I'm good.
Yeah.
On that note, thank you guys for listening to this episode of the Cinema Slayers podcast. Check us out on the internet at www.cinemaslayers.com. Cinema Slayers podcast on Facebook, cinema_slayers on Threads, Instagram, and Letterboxd. At Cinema Slayers pod on TikTok and YouTube. Give us a 5-star rating and review. We'd really appreciate it. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your family's friends, tell your friends' family. And most of all, tell those dear sweet mothers, because dear sweet mothers love
Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds.
More specifically, I would have said Hugh Jackman without a shirt.
I almost went that route.
Remember, because all the ladies and men were just staring at him. They were ogling him.
Yeah.
So, might as well lean into the skit at that point.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Shout out to Plug Me, Go Mundo, Cho for our theme songs and logos, respectively. Remember, here at the Cinema Slayers podcast, we are pro slut, pro city, and pro naked, especially, apparently Hugh Jackman's upper torso. So, oh, fuck. Hold on. I know what I need to say. I just don't remember the transition into it. And, also, yes, Houston fans, you are Knuff. And as we always say, remember justice for Chris, Todd, and all of those stunt people. Especially in this movie, there was a bunch. Lots of stunts.
Oh, yeah.
Need lots of stunt people. So shout out to them for just making movies in general possible. And, I guess it's that time to say, as I always in this podcast, these YouTube videos, and the TikToks, just remember, according to Jastin, yes, you, Jastin, Moon Knight is the Best Picture winner.
Somebody will listen to me.
Oh, man.
Nobody knows anything but you.
We talked a lot about that. Well, actually, news lasted a little longer because we were talking about Dr. Doom. That might have helped it.
Yeah, we didn't go that long, though.
Yeah.
It was about 30, 35 minutes, I think, for the intro.
Okay.
Yeah, we're only 15 minutes over schedule. So this, realistically, it was 2.5 hours. It's a bigger movie. It's a more popular movie.
Yeah.
There's more stuff that ties into it. Those factors tend to, combine in. This is roughly the length we went for Long Legs.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it was just me. Felt longer, but maybe not.
I think it's because it's 1:00 in the morning.
Yeah, that might have something to do with it.
All right, kids, I'm out.